languages and our future from inclusivity. I would like you all stand up and join us for the national anthem in a pledge to the martyrs to honor the sacrifice of Kurdish Shaheed. Please stand up. Thank you. Before we proceed with our distinguished speakers, it's only fitting that we properly introduce the three pillars of the collaboration that makes this conference possible. Each of our universities brings its own unique history, mission, and strength to this partnership. To offer you a glimpse into the distinct character and academic environment of each institution, we will now present a short introductory video from our three collaborative universities. The first video will be about Lebanese French University, the second video will be about Soran University, and the third video will be about the University of Kurdistan Hawler. These videos will allow you to better understand the landscape of higher education we collectively represent.
Lebanese French University, established in 2007, is a recognized institution of higher education holding official approval from the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research of both the Kurdistan Regional Government and the Federal Government of Iraq. At the Lebanese French University, you'll find 6 colleges and 24 academic departments. The College of Health and Science includes the Department of Medical Radiology Imaging, Medical Laboratory Science, and Clinical Biochemistry. Next is the College of Nursing, dedicated to training future healthcare leaders through its comprehensive nursing department. College of Engineering and Computer Science includes the Department of Architecture Engineering, Information Technology, Computer Engineering, and Computer Network. The College of Administration and Economics includes the Department of Accounting and Finance, Business Administration, Health Administration, Marketing, Tourism Management, and Legal Administration. The College of Law and International Relations has Department of Law, Psychology, and Diplomacy and International Relations. The College of Education and Languages includes Department of English Language, General Education, Arabic Language and Translation, French Language, Kurdish Language, and Russian Language. We are proud to be the only private university in Erbil with a dedicated pedagogy center, which has now successfully completed 10 training rounds. According to the Times Higher Education for Arab University Ranking 2024, we are ranked 2nd among all private universities in Kurdistan and 4th overall in Iraq. According to the latest Webometrics ranking, released in January 2025, we are ranked 2nd among all private universities in Kurdistan region.
زانکۆی لوبنانی فەرەنسی ئیلهام بەخشی بدیانانی داهاتوویەکی گەشاوەیە.
The Lebanese French University is an inspiration for building a glorious future.
لە نێو چیا سەرکەشەکانی کوردستان لە ساڵی 2009 زانکۆیەک دادەبەزرێت بە ناوی زانکۆی سۆران. لە ئێستادا یەکێکە لە زانکۆ پێشکەوتوەکانی کوردستان و عێراق بە پێی دیدگایەکی ڕوون و پلانێکی استراتیژی داڕژرا و کار دەکات بۆ بەرەو پێشبردننی کایە ئەکادیمی و زانستی. لە ئێستادا زانکۆی سۆران لە 5 فاکەڵتی و سەنتەری توێژینەوەی زانستی پێک دێت. فاکەڵتیەکانی زانکۆ 30 بەشی زانستی لە خۆ دەگرن و لە چوارچێوەی سەنتەری توێژینەوەی زانستیشدا 6 سەنتەری تایبەتمەند بەرهەمی زانستی و خزمەتگوزاری پێشکەش دەکەن. لە پاڵ ئەمەشدا زانکۆی سۆران خاوەنی 30 تاقیگە و 2 کتێبخانەیە. لە سەرەتای دامەزراندنیەوە تاوەکو ئێستا 12684 قوتابی لە زانکۆی سۆران بڕوانامەیان بەدەستهێناوە. لە ئێستادا 6500 قوتابی بەکالۆریۆس و 150 قوتابی خوێندنی باڵا دکتۆرا و 255 قوتابی ماستەر لە زانکۆی سۆران درێژە بە خوێندن دەدەن. زانکۆی سۆران خاوەن ستافێکی ئەکادیمی دەوڵەمەند و ئاست بەرزە کە لە 500 مامۆستا پێک هاتووە. هەروەها خاوەن کەمپەسێکی پێشکەوتووە و دەکەوێتە باکووری شاری سۆران. توانای مرۆیی و گشت خزمەتگوزاریە پێویستیەکانی تیادا بەرهەف کراوە بۆ پێشکەشکردنی بەرزترین ئاستی زانستی بە قوتابیان.
Always dreamt about coming to this place. My goal was to become one of the thousands of success stories that started here and were made. A place where your dreams can only get bigger and success comes within your reach. The vision behind this place is unique, and everything you learn and experience here is dedicated to excellence. UKH, a place where we work hard, find passions, gain new skills, and help develop the region. Not only do you get these opportunities, but also the opportunity to be a part of something bigger than yourself, a community. Community that raises you up, supports you, and becomes the backbone of your future. A future that can only be achieved at the University of Kurdistan, Hawlir. This is where dreams become reality. And now, I stand before you today. This is UKH.
Thank you so much. We are now ready to officially begin the dialogue that has been so carefully prepared. To open our conference, I have the distinct honor of inviting a man who has worked tirelessly to bring us all together. the head of the Scientific and Organizing Committee, Professor Dr. Kawa Sherwani.
کۆمەڵایەتی و پۆستی حکومی و حزبی و ئەکادیمی بە خێراتنی هەموو لایەکتان دەکەین. خۆشحاڵم لە مەراسیمیکردنەوەی کۆنفرانسەکەمان یەکەمین کۆنفرانسی نێودەوڵەتی لەسەر پەروەردە بۆ هاوڵاتیبونی چالاک هەمزۆری زمانەوانی و کلتوری و گشتگیری بە خێرهاتنێکی گەرمتان بکەم. ئەم بۆنە ئەکادیمیە مەزنە بەرچاوە بەبێ هاوکاری و پاڵپشتی سێ زانکۆی بەناوبانجی کوردستان، زانکۆی لوبنانی فەرەنسی و زانکۆی سۆران و زانکۆی کوردستان هەولێر نەدەکرا. بەڕێزان من وتارەکەم بە زمانی ئینگلیزیە بۆتان دەخوێنمەوە. Honorable guests, esteemed members of the Academic and Organizing Committee of the conference, distinguished researchers, participants, presenters, guests, students, and teachers. I am delighted to welcome you all to the opening ceremony of our conference, the first international conference on education for active citizenship, linguistic and cultural diversity and inclusivity. This significant event would not have been possible without the collaboration and support of three prestigious universities: Lebanese French University, Kurdistan University Hawler, and Soran University. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the presidents of the three universities for their invaluable partnership. Special appreciation goes to Dr. Benar from Lebanese French University, whose tireless efforts have been instrumental in bringing this conference to life. To the researchers and presenters, I offer my heartfelt thanks for your contribution, which promise to enrich our discussions and debates over the next few days. Your dedication to exploring and sharing knowledge on these critical themes is truly commendable. As you are aware, our conference will be held across three venues, each located on the campuses of our participating universities. Today, we gather here at Lebanese French University. Tomorrow, we will move to Kurdistan University Hawler, and on Thursday, we will visit Soran District and Soran University. This setup will not only facilitate our academic exchange, but also give us a chance to experience the rich cultural diversity of this region. Dear guests, out of more than 40 abstracts submitted to the conference, 35 successfully passed the rigorous review process, and from those, 28 papers met the required criteria for presentation at this conference. These numbers reflect the high quality and relevance of the research being shared here. This doesn't mean that the other papers are unusable, but they didn't meet the criteria set for this conference. Organizing the first conference is indeed a challenging endeavor, and it often proves difficult to attract participants. However, thanks to your involvement and support, we have been able to overcome the hurdles. I am confident that this success will pave the way for smoother and even more impactful future conferences. To our guests traveling from outside Iraq and Erbil, I wish you a warm welcome and a pleasant stay. I hope you will enjoy the beauty of Erbil, immerse yourselves in the vibrant culture, and have ample opportunities to unwind and have fun. With great anticipation, I declare this conference open. Let us engage in fruitful discussions, share our insights, and forge new connections that will foster a more inclusive and active citizenship through education. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Kawa Sherwani, for your insightful remarks and for outlining the vision behind this significant gathering that we have here. We now have the privilege of hearing from the leader of our host institution, whose support has been instrumental in bringing this conference to life. It's my honor to invite the president of the Lebanese French University, Professor Dr. Abdelkader Naqshbandi, to deliver his welcome speech.
بەناوی خوای گەورە و میهرەبان، بەڕێز نوێنەری وەزارەتی خوێندنی باڵا و توێژینەوەی زانستی، بەڕێزان میێوانانی ئامادەبوو بە ڕێزگرتنی تایبەت لە پێگە و پایە هەرێکێکتان، توێژێرانی بەڕێز لە زانکۆکانی کوردستان و عێراق و دەرەوەی عێراق، بەیانیتان باش. سەرەتا بەناوی خۆم و دەستەی ئەمیندارانی زانکۆ و ئەنجومەنی زانکۆ بە خێرهاتنێکی گەرمی هەمولایەکتان دەکەم. بەڕێزان، زۆر خۆشحاڵین ئەمڕۆ لە زانکۆی لوبنانی فەرەنسی لە چالاکیەکی زانستی نێودەوڵەتی لە خزمەتتان داین، ئەویش یەکەمین کۆنفرانسی زانستی نێودەوڵەتی بە ناونیشانی پەروەردە لە پێناو هاوڵاتیبونی چالاک و فەرهەنگ و زمان و کلتور و فەرهەنگی لە خۆگرتن. ئامادەبوانی بەڕێز ئامادەبوانی خۆشەویست، ڕەنگە بەشێکی زۆرتان ئاگادار بن کە ئەم کۆنفرانسە کارێکی هاوبەشە لە نێوان هەرسێ زانکۆی لوبنانی فەرەنسی، زانکۆی کوردستانی هەولێر، زانکۆی سۆران. هەر بۆیە لێرەدا جێگای خۆیەتی بە خێرهاتنێکی تایبەتی بەڕێزان سەرۆکی زانکۆی کوردستان و زانکۆی سۆران و ستافەکانیان بکەم کە ئەمڕۆ لێرەدا لەگەڵمان بەشدارن، بۆ سپاسیان دەکەم کە لە ماوەی ڕابردوو بە یەکەوە وەکو یەک تیم کارمان کردووە بۆ ئەم جامدانی ئەم کۆنفرانسە. ئامادەوانی بەڕێز، وەکو ناونیشانی کۆنفرانسەکەدا ئاماژەی پێکراوە کە پەروەردە ڕۆڵێکی گرنگی هەیە لە پێگەیاندنی ڕۆڵەکانی وڵاتەکەمان، بۆ ئەوەی هەمومان ببین بە هاوڵاتێکی کە سەرنجمان لەسەر یەکتر قبولکردن و پێکەوە ژیان بێت لە نێوان کلتور و فەرهەنگە جیاوازەکانی کە لە کوردستانن. نەوەی کوردستانیش هەمیشە شانازی پێوە کردووە ئەم پێکەوە ژیانی نەتەوەی جیاوازەکانە لە چوارچێوەی کوردستان و لە زێر سایەی حکوومەتی هەرێمی کوردستان. هەر بۆیە وەکو زانکۆکان بە گرنگمانزانی ئەم کلتورە قولتور بکەینەوە و بە توێژنەوەی زانستی کار لەسەر پەرەپێدانی بکەین و لە چارچوبەی ئەم کۆنفرانسە گفتوگۆیان بکەین. وەک ئاگادارم ژمارەیەکی باش لە توێژنەوە لەلایەن چەندین توێژەر و مامۆستای زانکۆ لە ناو خۆی کوردستان و عێراق و دەرەوەی عێراق پێشکەش کراوە. پێشکەش بە کۆنفرانس کراون کە لە ماوەی ڕۆژانی کۆنفرانسەکە دەخرێتە ڕوو دواتریش وەک ڕاستپاردا دەیخینە بەردەم لایەنی پەیوەندیدار لە حکوومەت و پەرلەمانی کوردستان. لە کۆتاییدا دەمەوێت دەستخۆشی لە توێژەرانی بەشدار بوو بکەم و بە تایبەتیش بە خێرهاتنێکی ئەو توێژەرانە بکەم کە لە دەرەوەی کوردستان هاتوون. هیوادارم کاتێکی خۆش لە کوردستان و لە هەولێر سەر ببن. هەروەها نابێ هەوڵ و ماندووبوونی ڕێکخرانی ئەم کۆنفرانسە لە یاد بکەین. لێرەوە سوپاسی هەموو لێژنەکانی کۆنفرانس دەکەم لە لێژنەی زانستی و لێژنەی باڵای ئامادەکاری هەر لە هەر سێ زانکۆ و هەوڵ و ماندووبوونیان بەنز دەنرخێنین. لە کۆتاییدا دووبارە بە خێرهاتنی هەموو لایەک دەکەم و وەهی وای کاتێکی خۆشتان بۆ دەخوازم. سپاس.
Thank you to the Professor Dr. Abdulkader Naqshbandi, the President of the Lebanese French University, for your generous welcome and for the outstanding hospitality of the Lebanese French University. Our discussion here today gain even greater purpose through the support of the national institutions. It's therefore a particular honor to now give the floor to the representative of the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, His Excellency Mr. Ibrahim Rashid, for his speech.
بەناوی خوای گەورە و میهرەبان. ئامادەوانی بەڕێز، میوانانی خۆشەویست، خۆشحاڵ و بەختەوەرم ئەمڕۆ لەگەڵتانم بۆ بەشداریکردن لە کۆنفرانسێکی گرنگ سەبارەت بە هاوڵاتیبوونی ئەکتیڤانە زمانەوانی کلتوری جۆراوجۆر و گشتگیربوونی کە بۆ دروستکردنی کۆمەڵگەیەکی بەرەو پێش و دیموکراتی بنەمایەکی گرنگن. بەناوی وەزارەتی خوێندنی باڵا و توێژینەوەی زانستی دەستخۆشی و سپاسگوزاری ئاراستەی زانکۆ پارتنەرە بەشدارەکانی ئەم کۆنفرانسە دەکەم و هەوڵەکانیان بەرز دەنرخێنین. بەڕێزان، لە ڕابردوو ئێستاشتا پەروەردە تەنها بەو شێوەیە بینراوە کە خوێندکاران و قوتابیان فێری زانست و معریفەت دەکەین. بەڵام لە سەردەمی ئێستادا پەروەردە دەبێت فراوانتر بکرێت بە شێوەیەک پێویستە مرۆڤەکان بخاتە سەر ڕێگەی بەشداری چالاک، فێربوون و ڕێزگرتن لە کللتوری جیاواز و جۆراوجۆری توانا و دروستکردنی پەیوەندی نێودەوڵەتی، چونکە هەمومان دەزانین زمان دەواازەیەکە بۆ زانست و کللتور. خۆشبەختانە کۆمەڵگەی ئێمەش پڕە لە کللتوری جۆراوجۆر. داواکارم لە بەشداربووان و توێژەران و ئامادەبوانی خۆشەویست دەرەنجام و ڕاستپاردەکانی ئەم کۆنفرانسە دوای تەواوبوونی کارەکانی کۆنفرانس بە شێوەیەکی فەرمی ئاراستەی وەزارەتەکەمان بکرێت بۆ ئەوەی وەک یەکێک لە پرس و بابەتە هەستیارەکانی دیکەی کۆمەڵگەکەمان مامەڵەی لەگەڵ بکرێت و کاری جدی لەسەر بکرێت. ئامادەبوانی خۆشەویست، ئەم دەرفەتا دەخۆزمەوە بەوەی کە جارێکی تر بە ناوی وەزارەتی خوێندنی باڵا و توێژینەوەی زانستی دەستپێکی ساڵی نوێی خوێندن و دەستپێکی کاری زانستی و ئەکادیمیەکانی لەسەر جەم کۆمێنێتی و ئەکادیمی و مامۆستایان و قوتابیان و خوێندکاران پیرۆز بکەم. هیوادارم ساڵی خوێندنی 2025-2026 ساڵی کۆتایی هێنان بێت بە گرفت و ئاریشە دارایی و سیاسەکانی هەرێمی کوردستان و سێکتەری خوێندنی باڵا لە هەرێمی کوردستان بەرەو پێش چوونی زیاتر لە ڕووی زانستی و ئەکادیمی و ئیداری و داراییەوە بەخۆوە ببینێت. هەروەها ئاستی زانستی زانکۆکانی کوردستان و دامەزراوەکانی خوێندنی باڵا ڕۆژ دوای ڕۆژ بەرەو پێش بچێت. لە کۆتاییدا جارێکی تر هیوای سەرکەوتر بۆ کۆنفرانسەکەتان دەخوازم ئاواتەخوازین ئەم کۆنفرانسە لە دەستپێکی ساڵی نوێی خوێندن دەرەنجام و دەستکەوتی پڕزانستی و ئەکادمی کارەکانی تەواو کردبێت. هیوادارم هەمیشە ساغ و سەرکەوتوو بن.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, Your Excellency, for your inspiring words and for highlighting the national importance for our collective work here today. Our program now shifts from our formal opening to the heart of the academic agenda, the keynote addresses. These speeches are designed to frame the critical discussions that will unfold over the next 2 days. We begin with a global perspective. It's my distinct honor to introduce our international keynote speaker, Assistant Professor Dr. Mulai Amai. She is going to talk about releasing the fear, cultural, critical, and analytical education, and the role of educators. Assistant Professor Mulai Amai has been an educator over 20 years. She's a novelist and a short story writer. She gained a PhD at Lancaster University in the United Kingdom. Her interest is very much centered around decoloniality, women, memory, migration, diaspora, and belonging. Her forthcoming book, The Black Writer's Toolbox from Bloomsbury, explores and demonstrates methods to decolonize the creative writing classroom. Dear Doctor, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everybody, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Kurdistan is a place that has kept a piece of my heart, and I'm very happy to be here to give this keynote. There are so many ways to address the idea of what active citizenship looks like, especially when we consider cultural diversity and look at what inclusivity means. Over the next 3 days, we are going to hear voices exploring these topics from different viewpoints. And this will start or continue the conversation as we identify what we can offer as educators and the ways in which we approach the classroom. As educators, we are here to assist our students to understand their role within society, both locally and globally. It is our job to help produce the citizens of the future, and it is our place to know our limitations and understand that we don't know everything, and as much as we are teaching, we must be willing to learn too. I want to start the exploration of what this means by considering cultural literacy. This is one of the most important tools in the classroom if we are to educate our students in context. Cultural literacy was first defined by Hirsch in the 1980s. It introduces us to an analytical and critical awareness of the cultural markers that exist within a society so that we can make meaning. It is acknowledging and deciphering that there is a culture and a context attached to, say, a piece of literature that needs to be decoded for it to be fully understood. Cultural literacy is important for supporting diversity, fairness, and inclusion because it helps people understand each other better and breaks down cultural barriers. It helps people avoid making assumptions or using stereotypes, leading to more respectful behavior. Being culturally aware also helps individuals see their own biases and question unfair ideas they may have about others, which supports more fair and equal decisions. As educators, we stand in front of our students, and we impart knowledge, or at least we try to. But the days when we had to have a specific idealized curriculum that emulated the global north from 70 years ago or more have passed. There is a growing awareness of us here in the global south that transcends the past ways of educating. Now we have an understanding of cultural literacy. We no longer read a text or consider a theory outside of who we are and what best serves the needs of our own society. We have a responsibility for our education to be culturally contextual for all of our students. Sheriff Inspector 2011 state that in our practice, we need to allow students to relate to course content with their own cultural context. So what is culture? It is a word that is passed around with ease. I've been in education settings undertaking diversity training with teachers, and having set a task for them to define their culture, there was one white teacher who told me that it's okay for the ethnic people because they have a culture, but we don't. What is a people's culture? It is characteristics shared by a group of people. It is knowledge that has been passed down and is based around values, beliefs, language, rituals, traditions, and other behaviors. It encompasses social habits, food, music, and the arts. Everybody has a culture, even a child who was raised by wolves. Once we are part of a society, we grow to understand the expectations of that society. We might have some room to maneuver within all of this, but we understand who we are and our position. So back to the white teacher who thought he didn't have a culture. He certainly did. It was dominant, taken for granted, and therefore not seen. Any group or society who has been marginalized will always be fully aware of their culture as they seek to establish themselves and hold their society together. This is the grand culture of society. But there are also the individual cultures that take place in homes. I can remember as a child going into different people's homes, whether they were school friends or parents' friends, and being amazed at how different things were. My friends were spoken to differently than me. They spoke to their parents differently. They were allowed to do things that I wasn't, or weren't allowed to do things that I was. So within societal culture is all the subcultures that our students have to deal with. How do we as educators take all of this into account within the classroom to ensure that each student has the educational experience they need? Obviously, we cannot. That would be impossible. What we can do, though, is create a culture within our classrooms that takes into account wider society and seeks to make meaning for our students. We need to be aware that we are not teaching for a classroom setting. We are teaching for a society setting. If we do not give our students a full range of critical and analytical grounding, they cannot take what they learn outside of the institution. With this learning, we also need to teach our students to be able to critique. First, what they are learning in the classroom, and secondly, what is happening in society. So what do I mean by this? Critique is not criticism. There is sometimes a feeling that in order to critique something, we have to pull it down, to point out all the things that are not correct about it, to point out all the flaws and not have any other opinion. However, to critique and analyze properly, we need to come with receipts, as the youngsters say today. We read a text, we analyze it, we theorize about it, and we begin to think about what doesn't quite sit right with us. We articulate what isn't working, and we make suggestions about what could improve or change the ideas being discussed. During my tenure at Soran University, I introduced a new course called Critical Thinking, Writing and Research. I realized that I had some incredibly talented students in class. They were able to read a page of a book and recite it back to me verbatim. Impressive to someone who sometimes can't remember her own name. The first time I asked a student to explain what they had read in their own words, they couldn't do it. This is because, as bright as a student is, they cannot know things unless their brain has been trained to seek knowledge. Slowly we began to undo the colonial education system that had kept them from expanding their minds. The course certainly helped as we looked at different perspectives, how to argue critically, how to analyze a piece of writing and understand the nuances within the text. I felt quite proud that I was helping the students to think independently until they told me that what I had done was make them question their lives. Simple things that had always been done without thinking, they were now looking at critically and asking themselves questions. Of course, that was the intention, but I hadn't thought outside the classroom. I hadn't taken into account the students' home culture, what it would mean for them to start critiquing their lives, and by extension, their society. I didn't regret it, but I realized I had only done half a job. I remember my own awakening when I was at university, and I remember the confusion and pain of being aware that perhaps everything was not as I thought it was. I also remember coming out of the tunnel of confusion at the other end and being grateful that I had learned how to think properly. In another class where I was teaching post-colonial literature, I wanted the students to understand Edward Said's theory, and in particular his book Orientalism. In order to be sure that they were understanding what colonialism was and what it did to societies, I split them into groups. Using Said's analysis about how Western countries took and kept control over their colonies by spreading stories, ideas, and stereotypes that made the people they ruled seem less important, strange, or in need of help from the West, he said that the ability to tell these stories was a powerful way to control others. It helped dehumanize and dominate colonized people, while also shaping how the West saw itself and what it believed to be true. I split the students into 3 groups and gave them the task of colonizing a geographical location. One group had to colonize Europe, one had to colonize Africa, and the other had to colonize the Middle East. The students enjoyed the projects. They looked at the texts, listed the things that they would have to do to subjugate their given area, and the European group enjoyed themselves maybe a little too much. The African group did it, but they were a little apologetic. The Middle East group, however, couldn't do it. It was too close to home. They couldn't do that to themselves. And I understood that, but it showed me that as a society, there needs to be the ability to critique who we are, and that is the only way we can make changes. And it is our jobs as educators to produce students who can do this. So how do we do it? We start with ourselves. We are experts in our field. We have put in the hours to study our topics. We have approached our research from an angle that interests us personally. Whilst we were studying, we taught our supervisors new things. We added to their knowledge, because although their area of study was in the subject matter we were working with, they approached their research from their own perspective. And a good supervisor will acknowledge that they didn't look at the topic from the angle and then go and read and research so that they can guide their supervisee. It takes nothing away from that supervisor to acknowledge they are learning. Life is a whole learning process. We don't need to teach or supervise in fear. Even school children can teach us something from a perspective we weren't aware of. We are not AI bots. We don't have access to all information within seconds. We are human and therefore have the pleasure of constantly learning new things. Okay, you want me to finish? Okay. Okay. When I first started teaching during my PhD, I had a class of first-year students. I spent the first half of the class talking about the concept I wanted to cover that week. Then it came to the writing exercise I needed them to do to ensure the knowledge I had imparted was embedded. I explained it as though I was walking through a maze. Do this and then that, but not that. A bit of a backtrack here because that isn't quite making sense, so let's turn left and right and then try this and do that, okay? Any questions? There were a few blank stares. I knew the outcome I wanted, so with no probing questions, I left them to it. At the end of the class, one student stayed behind. He said to me, "Did you want us to do X, Y, Z?" I said, "Yes, that's exactly what I wanted." And he said, "Well, why didn't you just say that?" I had choices to make in that split second. I felt a little stupid. I was slightly embarrassed. And at the end of the day, I was the teacher. I looked at this young man. He was looking straight back at me, not a hint of malice on his face. He wasn't being rude. He genuinely wanted to know why I hadn't just said that. I responded, "You're absolutely right, and I'll do better next time." And that was one of the best lessons I received as an educator. It taught me how to be an inclusive instructor. There is nothing shameful in making mistakes. It's how humans learn. As lecturers, professors, teachers, we are experts in our niche, in the area of research that we have done. But we can always learn more. We can always walk away from a classroom or a supervision with more knowledge than we went in. And that's how it should be. There is nothing to fear when we walk into a classroom and allow our students to explore topics critically and analytically. The world is changing at a rapid rate, and nothing is certain. We must ensure that we are sending our students out armed with the ability to think, critique, arrive at balanced conclusions, and create a society that is worth living in. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Doctor, for the enlightening and expansive global overview. To ground these international ideas in our local context, we now turn to our estimate local keynote speaker, Assistant Professor Dr. Zaman Umar. He is going to talk about the complementary role of humanities and pure science, education as a pathway to active citizenship. Dr. Zaman Umar is an Assistant Professor of English Literature and currently serves as the Dean of the College of Languages at Salahuddin University, Erbil. With more than 22 years of academic experience, he has taught and supervised research across a wide range of topics in literature and cultural studies. His scholarly interests include the modern novel, drama, identity studies, neo-slave narratives, and the African American literature. His research particularly explores the intersection of literature and identity, with a focus on how narrative of race, history, and culture shape literary expression. Dear Doctor, the stage is yours.
أستاذ بس هيدا بيننا سريع Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a great honor to be part of this prestigious event. I am Saman Omar. I would like to first of all thank the thank you. Special thanks to the organizing members of this prestigious event, the Lebanese French University and Kurdistan University, Hawlier, as well as Soran University, for inviting me to become a member of the academic and scientific committee of this conference, as well as a keynote speaker for today. Special thanks to Dr. Kao Sherwani for also inviting me to present today. So the title of my presentation is The Complementary Role of Humanities and Pure Sciences, Education as a Pathway to Active Citizenship. Now, before I start, I would like to take us back in time for almost 90 years ago, specifically 1932, when scientists were able to split the atom, which actually paved the way for a big revolution in science and particularly in physics. And almost a decade later, 1942-43, actually 1945, the Manhattan Project, most of you are aware of that, when this revolution led to the making of the first atomic bomb in 1945. And the bomb was tested, that was known as the Manhattan Project, led by Oppenheimer. The bomb was tested in July 1945 in the deserts of New Mexico, I guess. And then just less than a month later, specifically August the 6th, the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima and 3 days later on Nagasaki. The result was the death of 210,000 people. So when the bomb fell down, the mushroom cloud rose, and with that a big question rose. The question that has science advanced in knowledge but regressed in wisdom? Now this is the crux of the argument that I am trying to make when I discuss the complementary role of human sciences, humanities and social sciences and pure sciences, and the influence of that role on strengthening and promoting active citizenship. So this is not to introduce active citizenship for the first time. I'm quite sure most of you are aware of the term, but this is rather a gentle reminder of what the term means by definition provided by Center for Civic Education, and the focus is on getting involved or determine the country's future, some of the characteristics of what an active citizen is. It's not just about getting involved by voting, for example, but rather, people, participants in the society should have a say, should have actually an opinion in the democratic process in the country. They should have a say about different issues, whether these are local issues or even global issues. And of course, that eventually should, lead to deciding or determining the country's future. This is another definition which is perhaps more suitable to our context in academia. It's provided by the Association for Citizenship and Teaching, which is based in the UK. And the focus is on democratic action, which means voting and other forms of participation and engagement in the society or the community or community involvement in the hope of making a positive change and taking action, for example, on local issues. And we have thousands of examples, maybe tens of examples about local issues that people need to engage with, including homelessness, diversity, poverty, drugs, etc., etc., or global issues such as climate change, for instance. Again, I'll be moving quickly with some of the slides because we already know about them, but for the sake of clarity, I had to put them here as well. But I will pause on some other slides and make points about them in detail. So STEM standing for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and these are the pure sciences that we're all aware of. Humanities and social sciences, philosophy, history, literature, linguistics, language, and arts, with the social sciences that we have in academia. Now this is, I guess, an important slide because it shows the integration of humanities with the social sciences. And again, this is with the pure sciences. And again, I'm trying to make this argument that without integrating these two branches, we cannot quite successfully have what we call active citizenship, let us say. So this interdisciplinary area is very important, and actually my recommendation for the government and for the Ministries of Education and the Ministry of Higher Education is that they should be working on promoting and strengthening, they should be working on going towards that direction of integrating these majors or these disciplines, because science or pure sciences alone, to me, metaphorically speaking, is just like having the muscles. And social sciences and humanities alone is metaphorically like having the mind. And the mind and the muscles should actually work together. This is how I see it. More about, integrated disciplines. So in short, this is the question. STEM or science and technology, pure sciences tell us about how does the world work. But humanities and social sciences ask the question, what does the world mean for us as humans? So both are two important questions. When they are integrated, we get the last question, how can we use knowledge responsibly to improve life? And it takes us back to the bomb when it was dropped, was it actually a solution or it was a devastation? Some people say it was both. And ironically, Oppenheimer, for example, he called the test site Trinity. And this was taken actually when he was asked why did he call the testing site of the bomb Trinity. He said because he got the idea from one of the poems of John Donne, a well-known metaphysical English poet who lived during the 17th century, from his holy sonnets, particularly sonnet number 14, when John Donne talks about Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and how, with the influence of the three-personed God of Christianity, he is destroyed and renewed again. So it's about destruction and renewal. So the question was this. He called it Trinity, which means I'm destroying, I'm killing 210,000 people, but I'm trying to save the humanities by bringing an end to the World War II. Quite a debatable question, as you know. All right. Okay. Thank you. So this slide is particularly something that I like, not because I like weapons, but ironically I have brought this image from PUBG to convey a message, especially to say a little bit about my child, my son, who is kind of addicted like so many other kids to PUBG and this, pure science applications which brainwash people to the degree, I can't actually stand, here, I'm sorry, to the degree of, getting addicted to this technology. Now, at the first sight, when you look at this slide, you think that it's a comparison between three model auxiliaries, can, should, and must. In fact, it is, but the differences say so much about how we make use of pure science. Are we making use of pure science responsibly or not? And by pure science here, I'm referring to the weapon, okay, to the sniper, not to the sniper, but to the weapon. So can I shoot? This is, of course, taken from IHL, International Humanitarian Law. I had the privilege to train the Peshmerga forces for about 4 years. I was, training the Peshmerga forces when I was working for an American NGO about how to kill less people. So it was about, about mitigating civilian harm and mitigating collateral damage during military operations, how to protect civilians during military operations. So this question was a question that we most of the time, asked the Peshmerga forces. And specifically, we were teaching the operational commanders, not the soldiers. And the operational commanders are quite different because these are the people who are the decision makers. When it comes to the question of can I shoot, for example, it talks about the legal permissibility. Do I have legal permission to shoot? Because under IHL rules of engagement, if you're not legally permitted to shoot, you cannot shoot. You shouldn't shoot, actually. And the second question, should I shoot? Even though I have the legal permission to shoot, is it necessary that I shoot? Because I have to take into consideration the humanitarian element, by shooting, by neutralizing the target, am I going to cause a big collateral damage? Am I going to hurt civilians? This is something that soldiers and officers have to be aware of. I will tell you why I'm making this argument. Why am I talking about, this military operation question? Must I shoot? Must is used in English for obligation. So is it my duty? If it is my duty to shoot, I should actually justify that, saying, for example, my officers, my commanders, they told me to shoot. I have to be careful not to confuse duty with blind aggression, because although it is my duty to shoot, I should be careful not to cause a lot of damage. So most of the time soldiers and officers face this problem. Imagine you are a commander and there are 10 or 15 civilians you're trying to protect. And some enemies are firing at you, or they're actually approaching you and they will start firing at you in no time. You have no time to think. Then in this situation, you have the 3 yeses. Can I shoot? Yes, you're legally allowed to shoot, because if you don't, then civilians will get killed. Should? Yeah, you should be responsible and shoot. So it's about ethical responsibility, the second question, not about the legality of the point. And the last one is, yes, it is obligation that you should shoot, that you must shoot, because enemy is approaching. So this takes us back to the previous slide. We are using knowledge. We are using pure science. We are using the weapon, for example, responsibly to improve life, to protect civilians. And as I said, this PUBG image, I'm most of the time arguing with my kid. I'm telling him that he's getting addicted to PUBG, and he says no. And he brings justifications from AI. He says, Dad, I'm not addicted, and this is the justification. And I can't tell him that these justifications are also simply like brainwashing, just like this image and this game which promotes the culture of kill, kill, kill. So without integration of responsibility and the moral dimension, we cannot actually have what we call active citizenship. Wars are fought with weapons, but the weapons are actually at the hands of humans. So you have to make sure use that. History, literature, sociology, people say that these are in decline, and they are right. They are locally in decline. Give me a minute, sorry. They are locally and globally in decline, unfortunately. And there are reasons for that. But, who advocates history, literature, and sociology? Dr. Mully talked about, cultural variations and, societal differences, which we should understand if we wanted to promote the culture of democracy and pluralism, for example. God himself actually advocates history. Now, God says in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قِصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Exactly here. There was certainly in their stories a lesson for those of understanding. So God is telling us, you learn from actual stories as well as fiction. So how can I not love stories? How can I not love literature? How can I not make use of these, branches of humanities? with or without integration into pure sciences. So why humanities? This is the opinion of one scholar. She says it is through the studies of HSS that answers may be found for the perplexing social problems facing societies across the globe, including inequality, poverty, marginalization, discrimination, climate change, etc., etc. I met the Director General at the Ministry of Education. We had a chat for about an hour asking about why HSS is in decline, starting from high school then to the universities. And these were some of the reasons that she provided, and I think she is right. So students in the past in the KRI, they could not choose to go to the scientific branches if they didn't have good grades. Now, the ministry now has become more flexible in this regard. They can choose to go to the scientific branches regardless of their grades in sciences. The market opportunities is definitely one of the reasons. It's quite related to employability. Everybody wants to become a doctor, wants to become an engineer, a nurse, a medical assistant, because they can work in private hospitals. This actually reminds me of what Henrik Ibsen says in Adolf's House. He says the society is turning into a sick house. Wherever you go, there are pharmacies. Wherever you go, there are private hospitals. Maybe for some people this sounds, a progress, an advance, but when I look at it, it sounds, the society is turning into a sick house, actually. Admission opportunities to universities, and this is a policy that should be reconsidered, I believe. People are admitted to the universities based on their grades, but also based on their branches. So if you come from the scientific department, from the scientific branch, you can choose to go to humanities and sciences. But if you go from the humanities branch, you can't choose to go to scientific departments. And actually, this encourages people to go to the scientific branches in high school so that they can have more opportunities for admission. Mentality factor is definitely an issue here. Many people, it's a matter of imitation and prestige to some people. To become a medical doctor, it's a prestige. To become an engineer, it's a prestige. But to become a teacher of humanities, you're just a teacher. And it's a big problem, I guess. I can say that I am very proud to see here today, because I'm coming from a scientific branch, but then I went to humanities. So I can very proudly say that 3 of the people that I had the privilege to teach back in the early 2000, before 2010, 3 of them became university presidents. 2 of them are here, Dr. Sherwan and Dr. Zana, president of universities, and Dr. Kawa Sherwani, who successfully led the Polytechnic University, and some of my other students I can proudly see here, Dr. Sanger, Dr. Kawan, and others who are very actively participating, and Dr. Abdullah, of course, in academia. They are actually figures that are known at the level of the region and at the level of Erbil. So the other factor is actually openness and change. And this economic, in the past, basically 1990s, 1980s, women and girls were not quite recommended to go to some of the scientific branches. I don't want my daughter to become a medical assistant and work in a hospital and stay overnight, or nurses, for example. Now, this mentality has luckily positively changed, which also paves the way for more admission to scientific branches. Success rates has risen for scientific departments. The assessment system has changed. People actually can take it's open book exams and multiple choice questions, and I'm not trying to belittle that, but actually it has given more chances for people to succeed. We have so much evidence, worldwide evidence on HSS decline, in Europe, in the United States, in the UK, in the Middle East. These are some of the reports that you can easily find, and, for example, by 30%, decline is there in the United States just in 15 years. In Canada, in UK and other countries. Now, definitely The courses, as we stated earlier, are relevant to STEM expansion, employability concerns that we talked about, financial incentives and policy changes. So we need to perhaps, and this is my idea, we need to reconsider many of these if we wanted to address questions of drugs, responsibility, critical thinking. Dr. Molly talked about critical thinking. Without HSS, we can never strengthen and promote critical thinking of our students. So the result would be threatening, if this decline continues, it threatens cultural, civic, and critical thinking development. The consequences, as I said, weakening of civic knowledge, confusing, people about the meaning, of democracy and democratic participation, decline in critical thinking, and with the decline in critical thinking, people cannot definitely address some of these, questions that are, real-life questions and community-related questions, and narrowing the educational process into producing skilled, scientifically skilled graduates or people or persons, but are these scientifically skilled graduates, are they able to use their knowledge responsibly, going back to the question of the atomic bomb when it fell on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Some kind of solution there's been, so many conferences about this actually worldwide, and people have suggested different solutions, including, policy changes and financial incentives, more research, showing success stories, for example, success stories about how humanities and social sciences, particularly when integrated into pure sciences, bring about major changes in society. And perhaps this is my last slide, the mitigation strategies, as I said, promoting a student-centered approach to promote and strengthen critical thinking skills. Integration, as I said, is very important, digital. Many people are nowadays suffering from the use of AI and plagiarism, etc. So it has to be, integrated into ethics and morality and such questions. Too definitely needs, continuous change and reform so that we can meet the, these goals. And encouraging public engagement, arts and cultural initiatives, and showcasing, as we said, success stories. So the final point, the final argument is that without integration, we should forget about active citizenship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear doctor, for masterfully bridging global theory with our local context. It's a profound honor to welcome a true pioneer in the field of education, our distinguished Prime Minister of Education, Dr. Nasser Ghafoor Ramadan, the first Prime Minister of Education in Kurdistan. I would like to give him the stage to have a speech in our conference. Dear Doctor.
بناوی خوای بخشنده و مهربان من دکتر ناصر غفور رمضان
یەکەم وەزیری پەروەردە هەرێمی کوردستان خۆشحاڵم بۆ ئەم کۆنفرانسە پەروەردەی و زانستەی بانگێش کراوم هەڵبەتە جێی شانازیە کە ئەمڕۆ ئەم نەوع کۆنفرانسانە لە هەرێمی کوردستاندا پێکدەهێنرێت وەزارەتی پەروەردە دیسانەوە ئەویش ئەگەر لەم چەند مانگەی پێشوودا ئەوانش کۆنفرانسی پەروەردەییان سێمین کۆنفرانسی پەروەردەییان پێکهێنا ئەو وەختەی کە حکوومەتی هەرێمی کوردستان دامەزرا یەکەم شت کە بایەخی پێدرا پەروەردە بوو لە حکوومەتی هەرێمی کوردستاندا وەزارەتی پەروەردە چوارەمین یاسای کە بۆ لەناو حکوومەتی هەرێمی کوردستانە دەرچووە پەرلەمانی کوردستان یاسای دەرکردووە یاسای وەزارەتی پەروەردە بووە بۆ پەروەردە چونکە پەروەردە وەکو من نامێ هەموو ئەو وتانەی ئەو بەڕێزانەی پێش من دووبارە بکەمەوە پەروەردە بناغەیە پەروەردە ئەوجا فێرکردن و ئەوجا پێگەیاندن و ئەوجا زانست ئەگەر پەروەردە نەبێت ئەوانی ترش نابێت بەداخەوە حکوومەتی هەرێمی ینی حکوومەتی پێشووی ئێمە حکوومەتی بەعەس یان حکوومەتەکانی پێشووترش پەروەردەیان شێواند بوو پەروەردەیان بە تایبەتی بەنسبەت هەرێمی کوردستانەوە بەنسبەت کوردستانی عێراقەوە پەروەردەیان شێواند بوو بۆیە ئێمە ئەبوایە سەر لە نوێ دەست پێ بکەینەوە ڕاستە پەروەردە هەبوو ڕاستە خوێندن هەبوو لە قوتابخانەکاندا تەنها یەک زانکۆمان لە هەرێمی کوردستاندا هەبوو ئەو وەختە کوردستانی عێراقدا زانکۆی سلێمانی بوو گواست بوویانەوە بۆ هەولێر ناویان نابوو زانکۆی سەلاحەدین ئەو جاش لەوێ بەو شێوەیە پێگەیاندن و زانست وەکو پێویست نەبوو بۆیە ئێمە مەجبور بووین پێدا بچینەوە بەو شێوەیەی کەوە لە بەرژەوەندی باڵای گەلی کوردستان بێت بە کورد و پێکهاتەکانیەوە بە برامەسیحیەکانمانەوە بە تورکمانەکانمانەوە کە لەگەڵ ئێمەدا ئەژین لە یاسایی ژمارە 4 وەزارەتی پەروەردەدا بایەخ نەک تەنها بە زمانی کوردی دراوە بەڵکو بایەخ بە زمانی سریانی و زبانی تورکمانیش دراوە بۆ ئەوەی چونکە ئەوانەی وەک لەگەڵ ئێمە ژیاون سەدان و هەزاران ساڵە لەگەڵ ئێمەدا ژیاون ئەوانش بێبەش کرابوون لە پەروەردە بە زبانی خۆیان بۆیە ئێمە بە پێویستمان زانی ئەوە بکەین بە پێویستمان زانی کە ئەبێ پەروەردە بە زبانی چونکە ئەگەر پەروەردە بە زبانی دایک دەست پێ نەکات ناتوانانی زبانەکانی تر فێر بیت ڕاستە پێش ئەوەی کە تۆ قەناعەتی من وایە پێش ئەوەی من خەڵکی ترم خۆش بوێ پێویستە دایکی خۆم خۆش بێ پێویستە کە سوکاری خۆم خۆش بێ پێویستە زبانەکەی خۆم خۆش بێ بۆیە ئێمە زبانی کوردیمان کردە ئەساس بەڵام لە هەمان کاتدا یعنی مەبەستم لە قوتابخانەکانە زبانی کوردیمان کردە ئەساس بەڵام لە هەمان کاتدا زمانی پێکهاتەکانی ترشمان پشتگۆ نەخست بۆ ئەوانشمان قوتابخانە کردەوە بۆ چونکە پێویستە لێەوە دەست پێ بکەین یعنی بناغی پێگەیشتنی مرۆڤ لە پەروەردەوە دەست پێکات اینجا دوای پێگەیاندنە دوای زانست فێری زانستێکەی فێری کلتوریەکەی بۆ ئەوەی ئێمە ڕابردووی خۆمان مێژووی خۆمان نەشێوێ ئەبێ بەو شێوەیە چونکە مێژووی کورد و کوردستان مێژوویەکی مرۆڤایانەیە هەزاران ساڵە ئەو میلەتانە لەگەڵ ئێمە پێکەوە ئەژێن بۆیە ئەبێ ئێمە ڕاستە کوردایەتی پیرۆزە بەڵام لە هەمان کاتدا کوردستانی بوونشمان پیرۆزە بۆیە ئەوانەی لەگەڵ ئێمە لە کوردستاندا ئەژین ئەبێ ئێمە بایەخ بەوانشدا بگین ئەمە واتای ئەوە ناگەێنێ ئێمە زبانەکانی تر فرامۆش بکەین یان زانستەکانی تر فرامۆش بکەین نەخێر پێویستە ئێمە زبانی ئینگلیزی زبانی فەرەنسی زبانی ڕووسی ئەو زمانە زندوانەی کە ئەمڕۆ لە جیهاندا هەن بۆ ئاگاداری ئێستا خەریکە زبانی چینی سەیتەرە لەسەر زۆر شتاکە یان یابانی بۆیە ئێمە ئەگەر هەتا پێمان بکری ئەو زبانانەش بایەخ بەو زبانانەش بدەین چ لە پەروەردە و چ لە زانکۆکاندا من هەر ئەوەندەم ویست من سپاسانەکەم کە من بانگهێش کرام بۆ ئێرە دەستخۆشیتان لێکەم و سەرکەوتن بۆ هەرسێ زانکۆ بەڕێزەکاکەم
Thank you so much for the first Prime Minister of Education. This concludes our morning program. We will now break for refreshments. Coffee and tea will be served in the seminar hall next to our conference hall. Please remember to return to this hall promptly at 11:15 for the first panel, which will be about technology and education. Following that, we have the second panel, and it's going to be about applied linguistics. Thank you and enjoy the break.